Good morning, everyone. So, as Mifa said, we're beginning a new sermon series this week called Love Is, and we're going to explore some of the qualities of love, and most importantly, how we can express those qualities of love in our lives, some of the practical daily issues that we confront and we long for. So, first let me share a quote from Father Moon. Father Moon says, "Why were we born? If we say simply it is because of love, well, we've said it all that needs to say. That love is true. That love is true love. True love goes beyond the love of this fallen world. The purpose of all religions is to reach the world of true love." And also, elsewhere, he says, "All beings in the universe want to be in harmony with love and to live in the midst of love. We are born for the sake of love, we live for the sake of love, and finally we die for the sake of love." Now, from the New Testament, this is St. Paul describing the qualities of love. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. So there's a long list there of what love is, right? So we're going to spend the next number of weeks, exploring what love is, and particularly what true love is. Now, this week, today, I'm going to start off with humility. True love is humble. And the challenge when we think about humility is, well, here's the definition. Humility is modest opinion of one's own importance or rank. Some of us have an inflated opinion of our own importance and how important we are in the life and the world around us, but also even the ranking. Am I better than this person? Am I above this person? Or below? And sometimes we get really preoccupied with that. But humility is having a modest opinion. It's not a false one, but modest. Also, it's being free from pride and arrogance, which is, arrogance pretty much is the opposite of humility. Now, when we talk about wanting to be humble people and in order to be people of true love, we've got a lot of different challenges, things that stand in our way. And from the very beginning, let's start with the spiritual challenges. Now, from the Unification teachings, from the Divine Principle, we talk about we inherit fallen nature from our lineage, from Adam and Eve, from the Garden of Eden, from the fall. All these challenges begin right there with that first family, with the family of Adam and Eve. And so, when we explore and look in depth of the fallen nature, the nature that we inherit it from Adam and Eve. Also, we get it from our ancestors and our parents and the collective that we're part of, and also the sins that we do ourselves. But fallen nature is something that each one of us has to challenge, take on, and work with. And one of our fundamental fallen natures is, I'm right and everybody else is wrong. I'm better than everybody else. That kind of feeling of I'm superior and I want to be superior to other people. Well, when we study that first family, Adam's family, and then look at his children, Cain and Abel, especially from the Unification perspective, when we dive deep into that biblical story, we know the story of Cain and Abel. Right? In case you're not familiar, the two children of Adam and Eve, Cain was the oldest, and then Abel was the second son. And God asked both of them to make an offering to God. And so they both make their offering. And Abel's is accepted. So Abel receives a blessing. And Cain's is rejected. So we think, is Cain the bad guy now? Well, maybe not. God says, to Cain, says, don't worry. What's wrong? Why is your face downcast? Now, don't you know, if you'll do good, you'll be blessed. So we spent a lot of time on this. I hope sometime you can join us on Saturday mornings when we have the Divine Principle study. We dive deep into these Bible verses. But that relationship between Cain and Abel shows us a universal pattern of challenge that we all face in life. This is an archetypical pattern that we're all wrestling with. This relationship between Cain, who is in the lesser position, has not received the blessing, and Abel, who has received God's blessing, has something to give. Well, if you think about that, usually when has received a blessing and someone hasn't, there's awkward feelings between them. Like the one in Cain's position who hasn't received the blessing, there's feelings of jealousy and resentment. In order for Cain to fulfill God's will, God's desire to reconcile in that family, Cain had to humble himself. And that's not easy, especially if you're the older brother and the younger brother gets the blessing and go, oh, well, I have to humble myself to my younger brother. There's something that we don't like to do that. We don't like to be humble to the other. So Cain's challenge was to be humble, and he wasn't. Basically he got angry, he was jealous, and he killed his brother in the Bible story. Well, Abel, the one who has the blessing, Abel also has a problem with humility. He has to love his brother Cain humbly. We can expect, Abel, oh, God took my blessing. I'm so great. I'm the queen's bee. I'm on top of it all, right? How do you think that makes Cain feel? Not so good. Maybe like he wants to kill him. I don't know. Maybe you've had experience with that in your life, with someone who's successful. And what do? They rub your nose in it. I'm better than you are. I did better. I'm so great. No, actually, when we have God's blessing like that, our biggest challenge is how do we keep humble and we use that blessing, that gift that we have, for the benefit of those who haven't received that. And humility is going to be our key to getting there. The key quality that enables us to truly love and give the blessing that we have. Now, another thing that we know and we've through experience is the challenge of leadership. And when you're in a leadership position, it's very easy to be arrogant and proud and I know best and whatever. But truly, a humble leader is someone who can make the biggest difference in life. And when we're in the follower position, we have a leader that's trying to guide us. Sometimes it's humble, especially if that leader's maybe younger, maybe less experienced. You've had that experience, someone younger than you being promoted to be your senior. Oh man, I have to be humble to that kid. Well, this is a real challenge that we all experience, and even in our church, we find that with Father Moon's family. The second oldest son, who's in leadership position. When Father Moon said, "Okay, right now I want your younger brother to lead," oh, he had a lot of challenges with that, right? A lot of challenges. In fact, he went off and he's doing his own thing now. Even with the youngest son, when his position changed, it was very difficult for him to humbly accept that and respond. So, spiritually, we're all challenged with this, how do we be humble? But it's not just spiritual, and this problem's been around for a long time. Nowadays, we have a cultural challenge as well. Now, last week I read a really interesting book. I actually recommend it. It's called The Road to Character by David Brooks. He's a commentator on NPR. But he explores this idea of how do we develop character. And really, if you have a chance, you can get the book at the library. The introduction, the first chapter, and the last chapter give you the meat. And in between, he does a lot of biographies talking about people and how they developed character in their life. It's actually quite fascinating and rich. But if you don't have so much time, the first, the second, and the last, we're going to give you the meat of the book. But he tells a couple of stories, interesting stories. And one, most of you all are a little bit young, but in 1969, Super Bowl number 3. Now, I know a lot of you weren't even born then, but you know what the Super Bowl is, right? And in Super Bowl number 3, we have 2 quarterbacks that exemplify a real change in culture. Some of you might remember Johnny Unitas. A very conservative kind of, get-to-work, blue-collar guy who just was an amazing quarterback. Very humble, self-effacing. He always would lift up the team over himself. After the game, during the game, when he throws the pass to someone, he'd scold the guy if he missed the pass, yelling, "What are you doing?" But then when it came time in front of the reporters, he was up there saying, "No, it's all my fault. I overthrew it. I misdid He took responsibility, and he always lifted up the team. Amazing character, very humble guy. Well, on the other side, we have Joe Namath. Now, some of you may know of Broadway Joe. He's actually probably one of the first sports athletes that became a superstar, right? Not just an athlete, but he was a star. Broadway Joe, he would take all the reporters, he would take them out, they would go partying with him. He was just, really outlandish, flamboyant, just doing all kinds of wild things to get attention. And he got a lot of attention. And he was quite talented. Interesting, they both were born, come from Pennsylvania. Relatively close, but they both represented two different generational ways of thinking. Now, if you look back, we talk about the two generations. The greatest generation is the people basically who lived during World War II. They lived lives going through hardships, and humility was a very important value. It was like something was off if you were putting yourself up and being arrogant. People just looked at you. You were strange. And they knew how to sacrifice. They were loyal. They could make effort to work hard. They were used to working hard. And it's interesting because when we talk about God's providence, God's work to try to bring healing and change the world, Father Moon came with the message. His calling from Jesus was in the 1920s. And his mission was truly to reach this greatest generation. The people from World War II who knew how to sacrifice, who knew a life of perseverance and really held these values high. But the providence got delayed. So who does the message come to? Well, the baby boomer generation. Now, the baby boomer generation, we're not so well known for our humility. We're not so well known for being hardworking. We basically inherited a lot of blessing, an incredible amount of blessing, and kind of were a selfish generation focused on pleasure and my joy, and Joe Namath definitely exemplified that. It's all about me, right? And publicity and PR and being just, I want everyone to look at me. And of course then we have the millennials and what's the next, Generation Z or something. Anyway, we have all kinds of generations that's still having this perspective of it's all about me. And a lot of that comes because of the incredible blessing that we have. We're amazing. We don't have to struggle to survive anymore. We don't have all these struggles. But now we're the generation of the selfie, right? It's me. It's all about me. Here I am in front of this beautiful, landscape or some monument. Do I take a picture? In the old days, you would take a beautiful picture of the monument. You would frame it like a postcard, right? Not anymore. No, me with the face and a big picture of the monument in the background, right? That's the culture that we live in now. It's in that culture. There's good things and bad things. Definitely we've shifted a lot in good in terms of valuing people, and we should be proud of our accomplishments and like that. But you can take it too far. And so it's this. In his book, he points out these two different ways of looking at morality. He talks about the older generation. It's called moral realism. It's basically being realistic about how challenged we are. Realistically, how hard it is to be a moral person. That, honestly speaking, we inherently have a lot of struggles. And that's moral realism. Whereas moral romanticism is that, oh no, we're born perfectly good. There's no original sin. We're all born good, and we just have to let it all out. And then all that goodness will come out. This is, the other side of the coin. Now, from God's perspective, and from a unification's perspective, God sees both of these. Because we need to be realistic, because we are challenged with sin and the problems of evil. But we're not utterly depraved beings as this moralism would kind of emphasize. We are God's children, no matter what. And we have things we have to struggle with. So the balance here is somewhere in between. And humility is the key to harmonizing and finding genuine balance there. Let me read from Father Moon. Again, this is from the book on true love. It says, arrogance is your enemy. Arrogance and insisting on your own way are the essence and character of Satan. So instead of being arrogant, you should be modest. Instead of insisting on your own way, you should be humble. Harmony creates friendship. Thus, you should be able to bring harmony to everyone. We know that when someone stands up with arrogance and their own way, it's my way or the highway, they don't get so far. But if you're modest and humble, actually a lot of times you'll get your way because you present it in a way that people can receive it with humility. So bringing harmony is so important. Now when we talk about humility, there's a lot of easy ways to get confused about that. So let's say a few things humility is not. Humility is not, I am worthless. Oh, I'm a worthless scum, I'm no good. No, that's silly, that's absurd, because we are each God's precious, precious children. God loves desperately, so much. So, pretending that we're worthless or thinking that convincing myself that I'm worthless, this is not healthy. It's not God's ideal, and it's not true humility. Also, groveling. Where we're always saying, oh yeah, I'm no good. That's fake humility. Usually people do that when they're hiding how arrogant they are. Oh, I know, my poor humble self, please don't listen to me. Inside, they're just really, really arrogant, right? It's not groveling. That's not true humility. That's not hiding your gifts. God's given us amazing talents. The things that we're interested in, the things that we're good at, those are gifts that God's given us. Hiding them is not being humble. No. Now, showing them off and being prideful and arrogant about them, well, that's also not humble. That's arrogance. That's a problem. But using those gifts and remembering, where do those gifts come from? They come from God. God's blessing on us. So if we're humble about our gifts, then we can offer them and they can make a benefit and a change in our environment. This is God's hope for us, that we can be those kinds of people, loving people. Not hiding your gifts, but using them in a way that blesses others. And then finally, keeping silent, not saying anything, that's also not humble. Oh, I can't say anything. This is probably a problem, but I'm too humble to say it. No, that's not humble. That's fear. Who knows what that is? But and even as humble people, we can offer our genuine heart. So remember, humility is not that you're worthless. It's not that you grovel or hide your gifts or don't speak up when it's appropriate. No, instead, it's being genuinely present to love and caring for people and putting other people first. So why would we want to be humble? Especially if you look at the superstars today, people say, oh, I want to be popular. It used to be, I want to be a good person. Now, I want to be a popular person, right? We want to take our selfies. We want to be on TV. The big thing is, how can I be popular? Well, what are the benefits of being humble? We're trying to encourage you to pursue this course of humility. Well, first thing is when we're humble, we can continue to grow. As soon as you start saying, I'm it, I'm the best, I'm all this, there's no room for us to grow and develop. So when we're humble, it means we're always able to grow and improve and develop. Also, being humble means we're teachable. It means we can learn things. One of the important things, especially for a leader, is for a leader to be teachable, to be able to learn from the people that they're leading and working with. So being humble means that we can benefit from other people's knowledge. Whereas if I'm arrogant, I might close off my mind. I'm not going to benefit from what they have to offer. Also, humility generates genuine confidence. A lot of times when we're arrogant, it's because we're trying to hide our insecurity. But if we're humble, we recognize that we're not perfect, that we have challenges, then it's easy for us to be confident. I know who I am. I'm not afraid. I don't have to hide. I have genuine confidence when we live by this kind of standard of being genuinely humble. And also, like I said before, humility is a powerful force for bringing harmony and communication. Arrogance, nothing shuts down someone's listening to you than being arrogant and a show-off. But if we're humble, people can receive what we have to offer. Again, here's from Father Moon. It says, love is said to be meek and humble, and indeed it is, so that it can flow eternally and fully. This is one method to create flow without resistance. Meekness, humility, and sacrifice are accepted everywhere. They cause no resistance anywhere. So when we're trying to care for people, when we're trying to make a difference in the world, if we go at it with, arrogance, listen to me, I've got the right way, I'm going to shove this truth down your throat, whether you like it or not, who's going to receive that? But if we have something genuine to share, and particularly we're motivated by love, then we humbly can offer things and allow people the space to receive and understand the gift that we have to offer. Just like Cain couldn't humble himself to Abel, because most likely Abel was very arrogant. I'm so good. You're so stupid, Cain. You should do what I say. How likely is he to listen to that? I mean, if your younger brother, younger sister, or friend says something like that to you, are you going to listen? No. Probably not, unless you are quite elevated spiritually. So, how do we cultivate humility? I want to conclude with this. The first challenge that we have, and even when we talk about our fallen nature, the very first problem that we all wrestle with is seeing things from a higher perspective. Most importantly, we need to look at things from God's point of view, not my point of view. My point of view is, me. It's focused on a very narrow kind of understanding of life and the universe. And this is why it's important that we spend time studying the Scripture. We need to get clear on what is God's thinking about this. What's God's perspective on life and the challenges around us. It's something that we cultivate. This through our nurturing, through our study, and our efforts to become people who can see things, not just from my own point of view, or not just the view of my family, or not even just the view of my nation, but from God's perspective, the whole world of people who are God's children, God's precious sons and daughters that God loves so much and cares for. This is the perspective that we want to cultivate and nurture in ourselves, to see things from God's point of view. So a life of study, of prayer, of reflection, this nurtures that in us. And then we can genuinely be humble. When we see things from God's perspective, it's like, whoa. I saw it like this. It's like being on the ground and looking at everything, But then when you get at the top of a building, you look out, suddenly you see, whoa, look at all the people, look at all the things that are happening. You see a much bigger perspective. The other activity that keeps us humble is if we shift the focus from me, myself, to others. Honestly speaking, you've probably heard the challenge, I'm so proud about how humble I am. Right? There's even the story of the man he was so struggling with arrogance, and he went to his friend and said, I'm really almost perfect, but I'm having this trouble with humility, right? So his friend says, well, okay, why don't you go out and you put on a sandwich board, your sign on the front and the back, and go downtown, put some Bible scriptures on it, go and walk around downtown shouting out the scriptures out loud. That'll help you with humility, right? So he goes and he does it, and he's shouting it out, and everyone's looking at him and making noises. Well, God, go away, you're crazy, whatever. So anyway, he comes back after doing all that all day long, and he's, boy, that was really something. And his friend says, okay, well, what do you think? He says, I think it really helped me to become humble. And I don't think there's anybody in this city who could have done what I just did. So he really became humble from that. Right? If we focus on ourselves, we're always going to be stuck with arrogance. Even I try to be humble. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to be me. I'm thinking about me. If I'm really thinking about others, how can I benefit the people around me? How can I be a blessing to my community? How can I bring God's love into the world around me? Then I'm thinking about other people. I'm not thinking about what are they going to think of me. You can escape from fear. Because fear is like, oh, what are they going to think of me? What are they going to do? No. What will I do that makes a difference for them? So shifting our focus from ourselves to others naturally nurtures humble. And the second part of that, while we're focusing on serving others, self-awareness is real important. Because honestly speaking, who among us doesn't recognize that we have certain limitations and challenges and shortcomings? And if we close our mind to that and think, oh no, I'm fine, I'm the best, that's blind. Arrogance typically has to do with a certain nearsighted or blindness. Lack of self-awareness. Now, we can easily go to the other side a bit too far, right? I'm just completely thinking about myself, and that's, again, the problems of arrogance and not thinking about others. But if I look at myself, I genuinely can reflect. I have difficulties, I have challenges, I'm not perfect. Since I'm not perfect, I definitely have room for other people who are not perfect. Now, I have a lot of experience with this because, especially in any kind of large organization, leaders make lots of mistakes. And it's pretty easy to get upset and angry at leaders. Until you've had experience being a leader and making a few of those mistakes. Unfortunately, I have lots of experience being a leader, making lots of mistakes. Nothing humbles you like making mistakes and recognizing it and trying to do that. Want to be a good leader, but so easy to do the wrong thing. So when I now look at a leader and I see them, they're off, I'm willing to invest to try to support them, but I'm a lot slower to judge them than I used to be. Because I'm aware of my own shortcomings. Now, going back to that book by David Brooks, he says one of the most important qualities for us to develop character is humility and self-awareness. He talks about those older generations. The focus was always on my strive in my life to overcome myself. Recognizing that self-discipline, self-control, these at the core of becoming a true person. However, in later generations, our focus has become much more, let me actualize my true self. Let me do what I want. Let me do what feels good. That's how I'm going to accomplish it. Now, there needs to be a balance there. But that healthy self-awareness, knowing I'm imperfect and striving to grow, makes me much more humble in front of other people. Who am I to judge? But I do have something to offer, but I want to offer it humbly in a way that actually can benefit. If you just judge anyone, they're not going to receive them. It's not going to help them. It doesn't bless people if you just judge someone. They close. I'm not going to listen to you. But if we come to people with love and share humbly, then we can make a genuine difference in people's lives. Now, the last 2 points here I think are really kind of the most fundamental. Number one, gratitude. Whenever we fundamentally work on our just being grateful, that puts us automatically in a genuine humble position. Whenever we're grateful for something, why are we grateful? Because we received blessing. And we humbly recognize, we receiving. We are the people received. When we practice this attitude of gratitude, when we work constantly on how can I be grateful for my circumstances, it always puts us in a position of being humble. I have so much to be grateful for. I'm not that much that I can go around and be arrogant. I have so many blessings that I received. And if I'm thankful for that, then humility naturally flows genuinely. And the whole purpose of all this, the whole reason we're doing this, is for love. So when we move love to the core motivation of our actions, of what we're doing, especially when we put true love, God's presence and God's genuine love, then humility comes natural. It's not a fake one. Arrogance just doesn't have a place. Who cares, This arrogant stuff doesn't have any power because the power comes from I'm loving people. I care about people. I want God's love to be present in people's lives. And my investment in love, that's the ultimate cure for arrogance. So, all these things, seeing things from God's perspective, focusing on others, being aware of our own difficulties, being grateful, and fundamentally being people of love, true love. This is how we develop the character and the qualities of a genuine, loving person in our lives. Let me close with this quote from Father Moon. Father Moon says, "A life of true love simply means living for the sake of others. It is a life of taking a humble position, even as you give to others and live for their sake. That is the love of parents and the love of an owner. Such is the heart of God, the true parent of humanity." So, brothers and sisters, let's invest in having that true parental heart, God's loving heart, in every aspect of our lives, and recognize God's presence in that humble position. Please join me in prayer. Father, Mother God, we thank you so much for your presence in our lives, the many blessings that we have, and the opportunity that we have, even at this time in human history, to participate in your providence, to bring healing and to bring true love to this world. We know, Heavenly Parent, that often we have a small mind, a small perspective, and easily can fall into the area of being arrogant and prideful. Heavenly Parent, we genuinely want to become people of true love, and we know that humility, having a humble heart, is a powerful building block for that true love that you want to see expressed in this world, in our life around us. So, Heavenly Parent, each one of us, as we reflect on our lives and look at where can I make the next step to growing as a person of true love, we ask for your support, for your inspiration, Heavenly Parent, to guide us to become those true sons and daughters that spread your love everywhere we go. So, as your sons and daughters, gratefully we offer up ourselves and this time to you. Amen and adieu. Okay, everyone, please turn to your neighbor and please share about humility.